Hey everyone, this is Dr. Drizzle and welcome to the National Parks Expedition Challenge. Today we're in Bar Harbor, Maine at Acadia National Park with two new friends, Ranger Kate and Ranger Lisa. Girls, thank you so much for having us here today. Let me just put a little disclaimer out there. We are in the midst of the pandemic, so we are standing 8 feet apart outside. Normally we would be much closer because I'm a hugger. But today we're going to follow all the rules so we can explore this beautiful place. So Ranger Kate, we'll start with you. How did you get to the park?
Oh, it was a long road of many interesting turns. I am from here, and I had the good fortune of getting a forestry degree at the University of Maine. And my cousin worked in parks, and I kind of followed her. I got my first job here 31 years ago with the Fee Station, and worked my way through a series of jobs. Found that I loved working out in the field with kids, and ended up in the education district.
Very cool. Well, it was a very beautiful place to play.
Definitely, definitely. Different every day.
I bet so. Ranger Lisa, what about you? How did you get here?
Well, I actually grew up in North Carolina exploring the forest and the incredible sandy coastlines. And I fell in love with nature and animals, and I went on to study biology and marine sciences at Chapel Hill. After graduation, I really wanted to pursue a career where I got a chance to be around people, talking to students throughout the day, and to also explore the beautiful nature around us. So I kind of worked my way up both coastlines of the United States working at various nonprofit and private organizations and other national parks before I landed here in Acadia in 2003.
Well, thank you so much, girls, for letting us be here today. We're going to be talking about Acadia National Park and the beauty of it and also the history of it. So let's start with the history first. How did this beautiful place become a national park? Kate?
Many people started to preserve land here before it even became a park. We are one of the parks with the most donated land. From our early years in 1916, when the Park Service was first began, we became Sudamont National Monument. In time, we became Lafayette National Park with a little bit more protected status in 1919, and then Acadia in 1929.
So it had a couple different names before it became, which is a little unique.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah, I know that some other parks changed the type of designation they have, or maybe a monument to a memorial, to a seashore, to then a park, but you actually changed names.
Yes, that happened with legislation that allowed us to accept land on the mainland in Scudic Peninsula. And at that time it was decided that General Lafayette had not been through this area. While it had been patriotic to name it after him, it was more fitting to name it Acadia.
Lisa, tell us a little bit about what makes this park so special.
Oh, Acadia National Park is special and significant for so many reasons. Like Ranger Kate might have mentioned, we are a park of donated lands. So we are here due to the generosity of people that were here long before us. We also have an incredible diversity of habitats ranging from the tallest mountains on the eastern seaboard all the way down to the coastlines. We have a rich history, excuse me, we have a rich history that spans 12,000 years of human interconnectedness with the land. And we also have a lot of incredible geological resources, bedrock and glacial, to explore here in Acadia.
Well, Ranger Kate, how big is this place?
50,000 acres now.
So big, right?
50,000 acres. It's grown just in my time being here.
So there is a special place, well, there's a lot of special places here, but we know that there's a special place where you supposedly can see the sunrise before anyone else. What is that about?
It depends upon the angle of the earth, but during certain parts of the year, mostly the cold parts, we get some of the first rays of sunlight on the East Coast.
And that's at Cadillac?
Well, if you're at the highest point, you'll start to see those rays first. So Cadillac Mountain is one of those points. But there's many places to see sunrise
so actually,
here.
the whole park, there's places you can do this. You don't just have to climb up to Cadillac Mountain.
Correct. There's some gorgeous places throughout the park.
So Lisa, tell us about Thunderhole.
Hi, yes. So Thunderhole is a really popular destination to visit here in Acadia National Park. This is a natural crevice cavern carved out by the ocean waves along the rocky coastline, where if the wave energy is high and there is an incoming tide, sometimes the Thunderhole area will actually produce a pretty large boom of wave action. Sometimes it's a pretty quiet area, but again, when the conditions are just right, you might get to hear that thundering sound.
Well, you said that when the tide comes in, so could we possibly see that today?
Yes, it's best at mid-tide rising. When that water level gets to a point where it's high enough to cap off some air in the back little cavern and push it all out at once.
We'll have to try that out. And what about lighthouses? Can we find any lighthouses here?
Yes, there's several you can see from the coastline or from a boat, but there's one you can actually drive up to, which is our Bass Harbor Headlight on the southern tip of Mount Desert Island.
I noticed that here, especially in Maine, we call them headlights. And down in North Carolina, we call them just lighthouses. Is there a reason for headlights?
Most, I think it's just local language.
Local language, I love that.
But when you look at the coast of Maine compared to the south, we are much more rock bound, and most of our lighthouses sit up on a big rocky prominence of some kind.
That makes sense. We know that the eastern seaboard is called the graveyard of the Atlantic, which in North Carolina doesn't make as much sense to me because it's flat, like the sand just walks right out into the water. But here we notice that the coastlines are very jagged.
Yes, and there's a lot, and even down south there's a lot of shoals that you can run aground on. Here there's a lot of underwater ledges. Because of the glacial topography here, every island you see out there is actually the tip of an underwater mountain. And they don't have straight sides. They come back up and go down again. So there's a lot of change in depth of water just within 100 yards.
So the boats that are out there have to be very careful.
Very.
Even in the daylight.
Yep.
Right. So let's talk a little bit about the nature here. So Lisa, we'll start with you. We have some birds around here?
Yes, we do. The Acadia National Park is quite the birder's paradise. We protect over 300 species of birds here in the park, ranging from bald eagles to a variety of colorful warblers that you can hear singing in the forest. In the fall, we have many migrating hawks riding the winds. We actually have park rangers, scientists, volunteers monitoring them from on top of Cadillac Mountain. And we also have migrating shorebirds as well.
So Ranger Kate, when we first got here, you told us a little bit about some phenology. What is that?
Phenology is kind of the seasonality of nature, of the timing of things. When you look around us, Acadia's got a pretty diverse habitat. The glaciers have left behind steep cliffs, wetlands, a lot of different spaces for different types of forests. All the plants and animals there have a timing to their life cycle, whether it's insects, eggs being laid in the pond, hatching out into larvae and pupating into adults, or even the trees, when the buds first start to open in the spring. There's certain dates where you expect that to happen, and when the leaves burst into full size, or this time of year start to turn color and drop. That whole seasonality is referred to as phenology. And as our climate has shifted, we actually see shifts in some of the phenologies of plants, but maybe not in the animals that rely on them, or vice versa. Studying all those interrelations is the study of phenology.
So when animals are expecting something to happen and it doesn't on the plant side, that's kind of scary, isn't it?
Yes, and vice versa. If you're a bird nesting and you're here at a time that traditionally has lots of insects to eat, but they haven't hatched out yet, or they've hatched out and moved on, you don't have much in your lunchbox. You don't have much to feed your chicks. So those are mismatches. And those are concerns.
It reminds me a little bit about a baby's first book that mom takes care of, and here's the little milestones.
Yes.
And this is when they sit up or when they crawl or when they eat. You guys are sort of tracking all of that too. So after you've studied that, are people then working on some solutions?
Those are big questions, and we're still working on some of the questions. And the more you know, the more you have to think of questions and to deal with possible solutions.
So Lisa, you talked about the birds. What else may I find critter-wise if I'm walking around the park?
Oh yes, we have a lot of incredible wildlife here in Acadia. We have about 40 or so species of mammals here. So it's pretty common to see white-tailed deer, chipmunk, and squirrel. If you're lucky, you might come across a porcupine, beaver, or red fox. I do have to say that a lot of our animals are nocturnal or more active at night. So a lot of the times you just might find a clue that's left over by an animal.
Well, I'm wearing my Marvin and Huck shirt. Am I going to find a moose or a bear here?
That's a great question. We technically do have moose and black bear in Acadia National Park, but the chance of seeing them is very slim. We are a relatively smaller park, and we are on an island here, so there's not as much habitat for those particular animals. I have been here since 2003, and I have seen one moose in Acadia, and I have seen one black bear. So it is there are very small numbers of these animals.
And as much as we'd want to see those, it's kind of good that they have their own place. Like they're sort of staying away.
Yeah, yes. And other areas of Maine that aren't right along the coast, where there is a more expansive habitat, those animals would be more common there.
Very nice. Ranger Kate, for the future botanist of the world, what kind of nature plants can we find here? Trees?
Oh, there's a broad range of plants here. Everything from teeny tiny floating duckweed, which is about the size of the end of your little finger in the ponds, all the way up to our oak trees and our white pine trees, which is part of our original state flag, or state seal, I should say, a big part of our history. The mosses start around our wetlands, where you could find some wonderful plants to investigate. Sundew is one of our carnivorous plants. Little teeny tiny sundew is sticky and it will catch bugs to eat.
Oh, we'll have to find some of those.
This time of year, much bigger showy species of our trees. We have our oaks, which are rust and yellow, and some of our evergreens, which will keep their needles all year long. Acadia is a neat mix. We also have a lot of flowers, which are not as flashy as some other places, but we do have a wide range of flowers. Rhodora will light up our mountainsides in the spring with a magenta. Moving on into the fall, we have a lot of New England aster in various shades of purple.
So Ranger Kate, have there been famous artists that have depicted this place?
Even from the 1800s, artists would visit this area from the Hudson River Valley School. People like Frederick Church and Thomas Cole made gorgeous paintings of this area and would take them back to galleries in the winter, where people would visit those galleries and see those paintings and be attracted to come and visit here.
So we also know that in the National Park system you have something called Artist in Residence.
Yes.
And there are actual painters and artists that sit on the bridges in the Grand Canyon. There are soundscape artists that live out in Portland and Yosemite, and they capture sounds here. Right here where we are, I can see capturing paintings, but also sounds, because I hear
and poetry.
And a lot of poetry here
yes,
too.
Yes.
So let's go to engineering real quickly. We're on a bridge here.
Yes.
So tell us about this bridge.
Acadia National Park has 17 beautiful stone bridges along its carriage roads. The carriage roads and bridges were built by John D. Rockefeller Jr. and eventually donated to the park with the land that they set on, and for the most part. The bridges, he wanted them to look like they fit with part of nature. He didn't want them too slick or polished. And he wanted them built to reflect the site that they set in. Now here at Duck Brook, the brook runs beneath the bridge, and it's a pretty eroded V-shaped valley. It's pretty grand when you're down below looking up at it. So it's a grand bridge with 3 arches. In subtle, smaller areas, he would build small bridges. They were for carrying horse and carriage, early bicyclists and walkers, but particularly horse and carriage. And the bridges had to be made to last. They were hand cut, and they're quite an engineering feat. They were built to the area. First they'd build a post and beam mold of what they wanted the arch to look like and cover it with boards, and then put the facing stones on that and cementing them together with reinforcement bars, and then covering them with a sealant so that water wouldn't get down into the arch of the bridge and break it apart. If you get underneath the bridge, the arch is what holds the entire thing up, and the facing stones of the arch are all held in place by one very important stone at the top. It's the key to the arch lasting. It's called the keystone.
Wow.
And then the second most important part of the bridge is any water that falls on the broken stone construction here needs to run down through the bridge and out. You know, in Maine, with all our freezing temperatures in the winter, any water in the bridge will expand as it freezes and cause damage. So to make sure that water flows through the bridge and doesn't stay in there, as you go underneath the bridge, you'll see 4 big weep holes that allow water to funnel out of the bridge.
So here's what we're going to do, kids. We are going to issue a challenge to you to research the birds at Acadia National Park. Do some comparisons to what birds also visit you in your town or community. And then if this were to be needed, what type of ecosystem, small-scale ecosystem, could you create if birds had to be relocated to your area? So you have to think about several things. What ecosystem are we in now? What are the temperatures during the year? Compare that to where you live. Could birds from here actually live where you are? Could you create a small ecosystem? And then for phenology, I think it would be very cool if you guys could do some baby book milestones of plants and animals where you live. It's going to take a year or so because you need data over time to have enough data points. But think about, maybe track 3 things. Maybe a bird that you see all the time in your neighborhood, maybe a tree or a flower, and then maybe a small mammal, because we like to find those small mammals too. Document when you see them doing particular things. If you're going to use a squirrel, when you see that squirrel out picking up nuts, and then compare that to what tree are they feeding from, and then when does that tree drop its leaves. So a lot of just really intense research, because as Ranger Kate said, we need to solve some of these problems of climate change, but first we have to get the data on that. We have to get the research on that. Lisa, if you could give the kids your favorite bird. Don't listen, bird. She loves you all. We have one that's just a talking over here right now. I don't know if he's calling your name.
Well, like I said, with over 300 species, it's hard to pick just one, but I do have to say one of my favorite birds here is the common loon. I oftentimes hear them along our freshwater lakes here in Acadia National Park, and they actually use the edges of the lakes for very important nesting habitat.
So that's her favorite. You may not have a loon where you live, but you may have something similar. And Ranger Kate, if they were going to be a phenologist, Robert Corbin, I'm talking to you because you know about these birds and nature, but if they were to maybe just choose one plant or tree or animal, would that be helpful?
Yes, and there are websites actually that track that. You can post them for your area.
So iNaturalist would be
iNaturalist is something. Science of the Seasons is another website out there that actually researchers use the pool of data that citizen scientists collect.
Right, so they could document this and then upload the data right there, and then let the larger community of scientists have that information
right,
too.
and it's very helpful.
Very cool. Well, as we end our time together, we know that these students are interested in national parks. Like, they're groupies now of the national parks. We also know that not everyone gets to a national park. But if you could give them, we'll let each of you speak, one piece of advice on what they could do right now to get ready. Lisa, we'll start with you. If you could just talk to the camera, what would you tell the kids to do now to get them ready for national park work?
Sure. The number one thing that I would recommend would be to follow through with your passions. And one thing that I like to think about is that sometimes we might not exactly know what that is. We might be leaning in a lot of different directions. So I encourage all of you to get your feet wet and try many different things. And by doing so, this might help guide you to your future careers.
And what about you, Ranger Kate?
I would say stay curious. Whether you're studying history of like a bridge, the ecology of the forest, or really interested in animals, stay curious, and all the different things that you can learn add up to help you figure out what you want to do. You know, as I meet visitors here, there's all kinds of topics that they're interested in, and having a background of having been interested in those things helps me answer their questions.
Well, kids, we've had a wonderful time here today. I did forget to tell you this. As you complete your STEM challenges, as you begin to work on those, share your work with us at #NatParkChallenge and #ExpeditionsInEducation. On behalf of Acadia National Park, Ranger Kate and Ranger Lisa, this is Dr. Drizzle, out.